Dolph Lundgren's back. We saw Skin Trade earlier this year and liked it, so we thought we would check out his new film, War Pigs, a World War II movie. Also starring in this film, actually as the lead, despite Lundgren getting top billed, is Luke Goss, who is actually a good actor. I highly recommend his movie Interview with a Hitman. That's a really good film. I think it's on Netflix, so if you have Netflix, definitely check that out. But as far as War Pigs is concerned, this is such an empty movie. I mean, let's take away the fact that it was horribly made and horribly put together. When you look at the story or lack thereof, this is just the most pointless war film I've ever seen. There's
there's no plot behind this movie besides just World War II. They're in World War II fighting the Germans, and that's literally the only plot behind this movie.
And there's no characters to it other than soldiers fighting in World War II. I mean, we have a group of main characters, but they do not develop, they do not conflict. There is nothing to them other than they are fighting in World War II. And by World War II, they're fighting in Utah. The set locations of this is so cheap. It was shot in in the wilderness of Utah, in a park, and it shows. They made little to no effort to cover that up to make it look like Nazi-occupied France. So let's just get into this. So, Luke Goss is the lead in the film. He leads his troops into an ambush of CGI gunfire. Everyone dies except Goss. And very quickly into this film, you'll realize that this looks like a cheap local reenactment of World War II, as opposed to a movie actually trying to portray World War II. So, Luke Goss loses his best friend. He's traumatized. He's sad. And he gets reassigned to Dolph Lundgren, who is French. And I will say, Dolph Lundgren is still looking pretty great for a guy his age. And they are both taking orders from Mickey Rourke. Or, I'm sorry, not Mickey Rourke. The corpse of Mickey Rourke. Dolph may be looking good in this film. Mickey Rourke is not looking good in this film.
No, he's yeah. No.
He looks just seconds away from having a heart attack and dying. I mean, he looked so, even for Mickey Rourke standards, he looked so terrible. And he had a ridiculous costume on, a ridiculous wardrobe. There's no way that was them. That was totally him coming in with his own outfit and refusing to get into wardrobe. So anyways, Dolph and Luke Dolph Lundgren and Luke Goss get assigned the War Pigs, which is a group of young men, and every single one of them, with the exception of one, is an experienced soldier. So you would think, great. So Lundgren, Goss, and the War Pigs are going to go out and fight some Nazis, right? Wrong! This movie is short. It's very short, and it goes by very fast. And I kid you not, the first 50 minutes of this film is them all training. It's the group of War Pigs training, despite the fact that they are in Nazi-occupied France, which means they've already been through boot camp. It's time for them to go into battle. They're in enemy territory, and they spend more than half of this movie training. Can you explain that, Austin?
Explain what? The fact that these trained soldiers on the front lines are being retrained really pointlessly.
And poorly.
Let's
talk about the rope scene.
I didn't even understand what the point of most of what they were doing in this training was for. Like, why?
I realized by the third act of the film why they did this. It's obvious that they just did not have very much money to shoot this film, and so they figured it would cost them almost nothing to shoot these training sequences. So they thought they would just shoot most of the film with these pointless training sequences and then spend the rest of their money on the few action scenes towards the end. Does it pay off? Absolutely not. Tell them about the rope scene.
Okay, so in this area where they're training, which they never explain,
it's the park.
Yeah,
it's Wilderness Park.
Yeah. They're by this waterfall, Okay, and this waterfall is coming off this like rock formation. So you've got all the men standing at the bottom of the waterfall, and you got this rope that goes over the top of the river coming from the waterfall up to the top of the rock formation. And the point of this exercise is they're supposed to grab onto the rope and then climb up it backwards using the rope. But while they're doing this,
Luke Goss,
and Lundgren are taking live hand grenades and throwing them into the river right next to where the men are climbing to try to distract them. And these are live hand grenades, and they're exploding, and the men are falling off, and they're laughing.
It's a wacky scene.
Oh my goodness!
The whole point of this scene is that it's like a goofy scene of watching these soldiers bond with live hand grenades. Could you? And we wonder why Luke Goss got into so much trouble getting his soldiers killed in the opening scene.
And also, near the end of this training montage or whatever, I turned to Micah, and I was like, so is this just going to be like a movie where we're just watching them train and then like one crazy climax and then it's over? And Micah, to me, was like, no, man, it's only like 20 minutes into the film. And so I went over and checked. We were 43 minutes into this film. And we are still watching them just
pointlessly train.
Do nothing, basically.
Yeah. This was so... I mean, I'll give it credit. The movie moved by quickly, but this was so... It's just... If you don't have the money to make what the movie should be, don't make the movie. I mean, this just felt like a college film. It felt so cheap with these pointless training montages that procrastinate any resemblance to an actual plot.
And I mean, even their uniforms, like, it looked like they had got them from a local playhouse, you know? Yeah. I mean, and the patches were all, like, just looked awful, and...
And, you know, you don't need a war film necessarily with tons of action scenes or grand spectacle set designs. How about instead you substitute that with some three-dimensional characters? These characters... Despite how much I like Lundgren and despite how underrated of an actor I think Luke Goss is, these characters are cardboard. They're vanilla. They are bland. The dialogue in this movie is so boring. There was never a moment where someone was talking and I cared. Not even Mickey Rourke's corpse was interesting. I mean, it was fun to look at him, but
I mean, it was just cliche dialogue, you know, just what you would expect to hear from a war film where a bunch of soldiers are just talking to each other.
Imagine all the buddy-buddy, love-hate talk scenes from Fury and Private Ryan, minus anything interesting about it.
No, and I know we were talking about this. I love how this movie almost knows how boring these characters are, because a lot of the characters who they want you to know who they are, they have different, like...
outfits.
Like, physical differences, like, in their outfits and stuff, so that you can tell them apart.
Mm-hmm. Because otherwise, none of them would stand out.
Because it's like, oh, so you don't trust me to know the difference between them just off their characters, so you have to give me a visible difference.
Literally, we were halfway through the film, and we were still waiting for something to happen. Imagine in Fury if the first half of the film was the rookie getting assigned to the tank team.
And then them just driving.
Just driving. It's just them driving and having really boring conversations for 40 minutes, and that would be the equivalent to it. I also want to say a couple things before we move on. By his second scene, Dolph Lundgren decides that he's going to have a French accent. Because he didn't in the first scene. But he kind of forgets sometimes. So sometimes Dolph has a very bad French accent. And other times he just sounds like Dolph Lundgren. And the music. Holy crap. This was straight out of GoldenEye 64. This was some cheap sounding music. No offense to the composer, but wow.
Hold on. I think I saw... something about that. Oh, soundtrack. Here we go. Okay, so the music was performed by Paul Tutmark and the Wranglers.
Please tell me that is a rock band. Paul Tutmark and the what?
The Wranglers.
The Wranglers.
And then by the Maury Morrison Orchestra.
Okay, you should real quick YouTube them and see if you find anything while I talk more about the film.
Okay.
So they go through this pointless... So the trained soldiers go through more pointless training, and when they're done, they decide, okay, you guys are finally ready to go into war, even though you were sent here to go into war. So they give them these terrible homemade patches that have the dorkiest Punisher-esque skull on them, and they're like, hey, we're the war pigs. So they finally get an assignment, and their assignment is to go to a Nazi base and destroy this new weapon that they've created. We get more boring dialogue, and we'll get to the plane scene in a moment. We're going to save that for last. So they go into enemy lines, and almost immediately, 2 of the members get captured.
Well, they were with I'm sorry,
Luke Goss.
Luke Goss, and Luke Goss gets knocked out by a hand grenade.
Yes.
And falls down the hill, but he doesn't get captured, but the other 2 do.
He just passes out.
Like, almost immediately.
These guys suck. I mean, they suck. We watched half of the film seeing pointless training exercises with the implication being that they got tough from it.
And then literally the first action scene we see with them, they just get captured. Without even firing a shot.
It's so lame. No payoff whatsoever. So then, Dolph leads 2 other of the guys to ambush a Nazi tank. Dolph does this by standing in the middle of the battlefield with a shotgun and blows everyone away. This was so horribly shot, so laughably done. And again, the CGI bullets, the CGI fire, the CGI blood, the CGI everything is so effing laughable. And again, this movie just... Nothing is at stake here. There's nothing about this film that feels genuine. Everything... I mean, it's not even just the fact that it looks cheap. You have dull characters with a cheap set and a no plot. Basically, a non-plot. What is there to be invested in? The least they could do is give us some decent action scenes. And they can't even give us that.
And, I know, especially in direct-to-DVD films, this happens with like, just no-name bad guys. But these German soldiers are being mowed down. And, I mean, there's nothing they can do. They're firing. We'll get to the scene later when the main guy runs up the stairs after that guy. We'll get to that. But,
oh my gosh.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But it's just like... this is like 7 guys versus like 30 guys, and the only thing that happens is Dolph Lundgren gets shot in the stomach.
You know what made the climax to Private Ryan so effective? Because they spent about 20 minutes building up this last fight. They know they're outnumbered. They know there's a very good chance they're not going to make it. And we see these main characters that we spent the film with die off one by one, very dramatically, very shockingly, and very brutally.
Well, the same thing in Fury, too.
And same thing with Fury. I'm going to go ahead and go into spoilers here. Not a single member of War Pigs dies. Not a single one.
No.
Dolph Lundgren almost does. He gets shot. But he acts like it's nothing, too. Not for a moment do any of them act concerned that Lundgren got shot. So, and one other thing. During this horrendous action scene, there's a part where one of the Americans throws a hand grenade at a Nazi. The grenade lands about maybe a couple yards,
a yard
away from him, right. And it blows up. The explosion occurs like an inch away from him. Nice editing there, guys. Nice. So
it's obvious, there. Like he just threw a dummy, and then they had the
real explosion. Yeah, so poorly done. And so it was like they had only one explosion, so they were like, whoa, that's our shot, we blew it, whatever. So we get the lightest, tamest, cushiest torture scene I've ever seen in a war film. We cut back to the 2 guys that got captured, and they're
being interrogated by by
an American pretending to be a German, and he calls them some names. And he's
not intimidating at all.
And he punches one of them in the face. And that's our torture scene. Ooh! There's, again, to go back to this, nothing about this film shows the depressing brutality of war.
During a torture scene, you are supposed to feel,
the torture.
Well, you're supposed to feel concern for the person being tortured.
The stakes are high.
You don't know what's going to happen to them, but when you're watching this, you're like, ugh, I don't care.
You don't care, and there's nothing to care about because the guy's just getting punched. It's not even that he's getting punched. He got punched one time in the face. Big freaking deal. This movie, just a good war film will show you the depressing brutality of it, and it will show you the emotional roller coasters that the soldiers go through. Hamburger Hill shows the bipolar insanity that those soldiers go through. They're going through an insane battle where they're killing people are killing them, and then in their off time they're mourning, and then in their off time they're goofing around. And then it cuts back to battle. Like, you just see the emotional roller coaster that those guys go through. In this, everyone just acts mellow. Even when they're getting tortured, they are acting mellow. Nobody acts like there's something at stake. Nobody acts like they're in danger. And because none of them die, why should they?
Yeah.
And why should we care?
Yeah.
So
the rest of our group has all dressed up as Nazis, all dressing up in different
uniforms.
Different uniforms from different branches, all packed into these vehicles.
And didn't you say that's an American tank?
It was an old American tank that a lot of war films use for tanks, but it had German armor plates put on it to try to make it look like a German tank, but it was just a patent.
Yeah. Wow. So they sneak into the enemy base very easily.
If everything is fine, then let us go forward.
Yeah, Dolph talks to them in English, as if that's not suspicious in any way at all. And Luke Goss then spends his time just kind of hanging around the base, walking around. He very easily finds the plans for the weapon that they have to destroy, because, oh yeah, there's a plot to this film. And then one of the war pigs that was taken prisoner very easily kills their interrogator. He stabs him in the throat with a piece of wood from a chair. And what do the other guards do? They very carefully pick him up and take the time to hang him. As opposed to
just shooting him right there.
As opposed to, he just killed one of us, we're shooting him in the freaking head. So because they take the time to properly set him up to hang him, Luke Goss comes in to save the day. Again, we can't have any of the war pigs dying. That would actually add some intensity or set some stakes.
Or actually make it feel like this is a war.
So then, in this process, Luke Goss also knocks out one of the Germans. He knocks out one of the Nazis. So all of the guys get back together. They meet back in the tank. And they're like, okay, we got our tank. Let's go. We're going to go blow up that weapon and be done. And as they're about to leave, the Nazi that Luke Goss knocked out wakes up.
Oh my God.
And he sees them. And Luke Goss says, all right, run the tank. I'm going to go stop him before he sets off the alarm. This Nazi guy runs blatantly in the base, in the middle of the base, in front of all of these guards. He runs.
He's other German soldiers.
He's running by them. Luke Goss, blatantly chasing this guy, runs by them. This lasts for about a good 20 seconds.
And then he runs up the stairs, and then he goes, and he's like, alert, alert. And all these Germans are standing there
facing Luke Goss.
And Luke Goss pulls out his pistol and starts shooting at them, and they all start shooting back, and every single one of them miss.
Yeah.
He does not get hit at all. There's got to be at least 15 soldiers.
Yeah. So, in the lamest, most poorly shot escape scene ever seen on film, he somehow miraculously does not get shot. The tank is very slowly escaping. Luke Goss, with no problem at all, catches up with the tank, and without hiding, without covering, he just gets on top of the tank and says, hey, the weapon that we need to destroy, it's right there! And Dolph Lundgren...
Well, before that, though, before we get to the scene, after the alert was sounded, we have a shootout, because now the Germans obviously know that they're Americans, and so they're in their vehicles and they're shooting back at the Germans, and there's, I don't know, probably like maybe 30 Germans firing at them.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was the climactic gunfight of the movie, so I mean,
it felt so lame.
Oh, it was. I mean,
there was nothing. I mean, there was a bazooka shot that was kind of cool. That's about it.
I mean, otherwise it's just men hiding behind things, firing over them, getting shot,
Marine
falling
4.
down. I mean, and men when these Germans, when they get shot, this is like camp levels of, falling
overselling,
falling down things and over things and stuff.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So after all this happens, the tank fires a tank shell into the side that stops the gunfight. Mm-hmm. And so the gunfighting has stopped. And now we get into what you were talking about.
Now, I want to keep on. So they see the big, dangerous weapon that the Nazis have been building. So Dolph very slowly loads up the tank to fire at it. And while this is happening, there is a Nazi Jeep chasing the tank. You can see it in plain sight. It is directly behind them. So you would think, almost out of battery. So you would think that they would, hey, we have to kill these Nazis. Well, then the camera shies away from that. Dolph blows up the weapon, and everything's fine. And there's no more Nazis around. They blow up the weapon, and they go, yeah, we blew up the weapon.
No, they blew up the weapon, and then they're like, okay, now let's go. And then I thought it was going to show, how difficult it would be for them to get back. But no, it just cuts to them
cuts away.
At Mickey Rourke.
I kid you not.
I was like...
After they blew up the weapon, the Nazis disappeared. There were no more Nazis in the base to chase after them. Worst climax ever.
So basically, after the shootout, and after the tank fires, and after the fighting has stopped, there's no more Nazis.
There had to have still been at least like 30 Nazis left. This is the laziest.
And we saw the Nazis running off.
There was a freaking Jeep right behind them chasing them. Where did that Jeep go? This movie was terrible. Battery's almost out. I don't know if we'll get to time to talk about it, but real quick, talk about the plane scene. If it runs out, it runs out.
Okay, so what happened was, while we were setting up for them getting to the big gun, they were driving down this road, and they entered German territory. And so, as they're entering German territory, they see these planes flying. But they are so obviously P-51 Mustangs, which are American fighter jets from World War II. But as they see these planes flying, the main guy sells it off like they are German.
Nazi, yeah.
Like they are German aircraft. And he's like, oh man, we have to hide.
Hopefully they might shoot us.
Because they might see us. And I was like, dude, those are American planes.
The best part about this is that they were CGI'd.
Oh, yeah. So they could have just made them German planes.
That means that whoever was in charge of the CGI intentionally digitalized an American plane to represent a Nazi plane. Here is a fact, kids. If you ever make a World War II film, make sure you know which equipment represents the Americans and which one represents the Nazis.
And make sure the Nazis aren't wearing uniforms from 4 different branches.
And if you can't
in the middle of nowhere.
And if you don't have the money to shoot your film in Europe, try to make it look a little better than your local park. I do not recommend War Pigs.
Hey, IMDb loves it, man. I don't know.
Oh boy, I guess we're wrong. Just like how we were wrong about Vendetta.
Oh my god, don't see this.